Now, to begin the women's side of the draft, we are going to be starting with SmackDown, considering that WWE Japan had the first selection at the beginning of the men's side of the draft. Now, for SmackDown to select their first draft pick, they are going to be selecting a star who held the Raw Women's Championship at a point throughout the last year. Her name is Ronda Rousey, and she's coming to SmackDown. Now, coming up next, we are going to head over to NXT for their draft pick. And the first draft pick from NXT is going to be the one, the only Becky. Becky Lynch is going to be making her place known as part of the NXT roster. And that is a huge acquisition for their brand. The NXT Women's Division never disappoints, and now having Becky Lynch as a part of it is going to take it to new heights. Following that, WWE Japan is going to select their first draft pick, that of which being Asuka, the former SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, SmackDown is going to select for their second round pick a former Raw Women's Champion, the second one ever, as a matter of fact, and her name is Trish Stratus. Next for NXT, they're going to select the woman who has won the NXT Women's Royal Rumble, and I landed right on her, so I selected the show. It's going to be Paige, who was unsuccessful in beating Ember Moon at WrestleMania. However, Paige, still a tremendous talent. Up next for WWE Japan, we have them selecting Shayna Baszler, and that will break up the tag team of Here Lies, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, two members of the Four Horsewomen. Up next for SmackDown, they're going to select a former SmackDown Women's Champion and the SmackDown Woman, or I should say the Women's Money in the Bank winner, and that is Sasha Banks, who was the boss in the bank throughout the duration of the last year, cashing in on Io Shirai to successfully obtain that championship before losing it back to Io Shirai. Now the next pick for NXT, this is going to go to one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, Candice LeRae. Following that, WWE Japan is going to select a woman who came up successful in the pre-show match, defeating Charlotte at WrestleMania. That is Beth Phoenix, going to WWE Japan. A former SmackDown Women's Champion in her own right, and going to look to retain dominance upon this new brand. Following that, SmackDown is going to select Kairi Sane to their roster. Unfortunately, Kairi Sane will not be able to participate along with Io Shirai and Asuka as part of WWE Japan. However, SmackDown, very fortunate to have Kairi Sane as a part of their roster. Now for NXT, they're going to select Charlotte Flair as their next pick in the draft. Following that, WWE Japan is going to select another huge acquisition, one of the top contenders in the Women's Rumble, Mercedes Martinez, is going to be selected to WWE Japan. Following that selection, SmackDown is going to draft one of the most talented and high caliber athletes that we've ever seen in the WWE, who's just waiting to break out, and that is Bianca Belair, heading over to SmackDown. A huge congratulations to Bianca Belair on winning the Royal Rumble the past weekend. She very much deserves it, and she was my pick to win the match, so I am very, very thankful that she was successful in doing so. Coming up next, for NXT, they're going to select Thunder Rosa, a woman who competed for their show throughout the past year and is going to continue to do so, as all these NXT women's contenders lining up for Bull Nakano. WWE Japan now is going to select for their next pick Toni Storm. Toni Storm, a former NXT Women's Champion multiple times throughout Universe Mode. Now the next pick for SmackDown coming up here is someone who's going to be following their husband along with him side by side into SmackDown. That is Taya Valkyrie, along with John Morrison, who was selected earlier. Now the next woman's contender to be selected at the hands of NXT is going to be Britt Baker. A lot of potential women's contenders who could go up against the likes of Bull Nakano. Now padding out their division. WWE Japan is going to select Dakota Kai as their next contender for the women's division. And to follow that up, SmackDown is going to select Lacey Evans as part of their brand. The next pick for NXT is going to be Lita. A woman who aligned herself with Rated RKO over the past year. However, they are going to be continuing their partnership on SmackDown away from Lita. So perhaps Lita can break out on her own and challenge Bull Nakano. However, the next pick for WWE Japan is going to be Bayley, furthering the separation of the four horsewomen of WWE. And now next for SmackDown, they're going to separate the bond that Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai share when they select Tegan Nox for their brand in at number 8. The next pick for NXT is the woman who most previously challenged Bull Nakano. That's Alexa Bliss, who attempted to take the NXT Women's Championship from her, but unsuccessful in doing so. Now the next pick for WWE Japan is going to be a woman who made her appearance known in the Women's Rumble, and ever since then has been competing on SmackDown. That is Deonna Purrazzo. Following that selection from WWE Japan, SmackDown is going to select Nikki Bella. And you are definitely a heel. Coming up next is someone who I personally have had invested interest in since their video packages have started airing in NXT, and I think it's one of the most interesting things going right now, and that is Xia Li, who will be selected for NXT. I seriously think her video packages bring me back to like Lucha Underground's era of vignettes and stuff, and I think it's really entertaining. Following that pick, WWE Japan is going to complete the Hart Foundation by picking up Natalya as well. And now the 10th pick in the draft for SmackDown is going to be Mandy Rose. Up next now for NXT, we're going to see them select a newcomer to the women's division. That is Charlie Evans. Up next for WWE Japan, they are going to select Ruby Riott as part of their roster. Following that, SmackDown now is going to select... Where is she? Carmella. In case you couldn't tell by now, the kind of style of show that WWE is going for is more for the sports entertainers kind of brand. I think that kind of came across through the selections on each brand, considering a lot of the old talent, I should say, from the older generations have been selected by SmackDown. Not to say that they aren't great and legendary, but that is more of the aesthetic that they're going for. Whereas NXT, with their next selection of Millie McKenzie, are definitely looking into more of a direction towards the future. Following that, WWE Japan is now going to select Mia Yim as part of their show. Oh, and I believe I missed a draft pick, actually. My mistake, but in between Mercedes Martinez, who was the 4th draft pick, and Toni Storm, who was the 6th draft pick for WWE Japan, Meiko Satomura was selected by WWE Japan as well, and I forgot to add her in, which is a huge acquisition that I completely missed, but she's here now, so awesome. Mia Yim also is going to be a part of WWE Japan. Now the next pick for SmackDown is going to be Tainara Conti. Up next, NXT has the next opportunity to pick. They're going to select Sonya Deville as part of their show, in which Sonya Deville will also be on the same show as Paige, so perhaps an Absolution reunion is in order. Up next, WWE Japan is going to select the legendary women's wrestler Mickie James, a woman who has struggled to break out on her own due to her relationship with Alexa Bliss. However, perhaps a turn of fate, that she has been drafted away from her, and now SmackDown is going to select Su Yung as their next pick. A big acquisition and another new women's wrestler who we have not seen here in Universe Mode yet. Naomi is now the next selection for NXT. And with that, we have 2 more selections from each brand. I'm gonna take care of them both in the same round now. So WWE Japan has selected Peyton Royce, in addition to their final pick being Jacqueline. So a pretty stacked roster for the women on WWE Japan. However, WWE SmackDown is going to look to finish off their roster by acquiring Ivory, as well as Brie Bella. So the Bella Twins will be returning now to SmackDown. And the final 2 picks for the women's division on NXT are going to be Liv Morgan and lastly, the final pick for the women's division on NXT is going to be Zelina Vega. And with that, we have finished the men's and women's sides of the roster. And now we will move on to the tag team side of the draft, in which 7 teams will be selected from each show. Now this is the final part of the draft, and we are finally going to select the tag team contenders, as well as any free agents that would like to be signed to any brand. Now I put this out in the draft format and had each brand select round by round which teams they wanted to acquire. However, for the sake of the video, I think I'm just going to go each brand at a time. So, for NXT, they have selected the following teams. The first round pick is Chad Gable and Jason Jordan as part of American Alpha, who will be returning to NXT as a team for the foreseeable future. So American Alpha is the first selection to return to NXT. Now the second round pick for NXT that they selected as part of their tag team division is the team of the Perfect Game. Ty Dillinger, who is the Perfect 10, as well as TJ Perkins, or TJP. So the Perfect Game will return to tag team action. Former SmackDown competitors now going to be making their place known in NXT. Up next, the third round draft pick for for NXT. This time it is going to be, gotta move up here. It's going to be Eric Young and Alexander Wolf as part of Sanity. And Alexander Wolf could be a contender for the United Kingdom Championship, as well as Eric Young could be a potential contender for the United States Championship. The next pick for NXT is going to be the tag team of the Lucha Dragons, Kalisto and Sin Cara. Kalisto and Sin Cara, a team that in the past has tried to breed success. They were former NXT champions in reality, but throughout Universe Mode have really not gained any momentum. And throughout the past year feuded with other luchadors such as Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado in a tag team called the Lucha Firebirds. Now the next team for NXT is going to be selected is going to be the B team. Bo Dallas, who is a former former Raw Tag Team Champion over the past year with Luke Harper. However, now being selected for NXT, a show that Luke Harper is also on, however, being in a tag team with Curtis Axel for the time being. Now the next tag team that is going to be selected is a makeshift tag team that has come together as part of Universe Mode so that they can get drafted to a show. Come to terms on an agreement. The first member of that team is going to be Aiden English, who will be joining NXT. And in addition to Aiden English, he has joined forces with Elias, who has also been drafted to NXT, and that will be a new tag team heading forward. And now the final tag team to be selected by NXT is going to be the Colognes, Primo and Epico, who miraculously are still in these video games, but we'll just throw them in because why not? It's good to have more teams than less teams. And now the free agents that were going to be acquired by NXT at the end of this draft, who have yet to be drafted after the tag teams have all been drafted. So this is taking place after SmackDown and Japan have drafted already. The final picks for NXT they've reached out to for the free agency are going to be Noam Dar. So another potential United Kingdom contender. Lince Dorado. Surprisingly not being picked up during the duration of the draft, despite Gran Metalik going to WWE Japan. The next pick for NXT is Dana Brooke. And finally, NXT, with their last free agency acquisition, are going to pick up another women's contender. And this one is Sarah Logan. Now for SmackDown, we're going to find out who they acquired as part of the tag team division. The first pick for SmackDown was the team of the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. Angelo Dawkins also being selected to SmackDown. Former NXT Tag Team Champions in Universe Mode. Now the next pick is also a makeshift tag team, this one being the team of Dolph Ziggler, who is going to be returning to SmackDown once again, as if he would ever leave. And finally, as another part of that team, Tony Nese will be joining the forces of Dolph in redundancy. Up next, SmackDown has selected Tyler Breeze as well as Fandango, two members of Breezango. We'll find Fandango here, also heading to SmackDown. Up next, we have the tag team of Apollo Crews as well as Titus O'Neil heading over to SmackDown, part of Worldwide, the worldwide enterprise of Titus. We'll see if Titus O'Neil can acquire any more clients on SmackDown that can breed him more success than he has yet to acquire. The next tag team is another tag team that's come together in order to get drafted, and that is Arya Daivari, who will be teaming up with Jinder Mahal heading forward. And they will both be making their stay on SmackDown. Another tag team that will be drafted to SmackDown is Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder, who are part of the Hype Riders. So let's go down to Zack Ryder now. And the final tag team to be selected as part of this draft is going to be Rhino and Heath Slater. So with that, the 7 acquisitions of tag teams have been complete for Friday Night SmackDown as well as NXT. Now we'll find out which draft picks have been selected by SmackDown to be a part of their brand, the first of which being Baron Corbin, a man who competed against Drew McIntyre back at the Rumble in an attempt to achieve the World Championship. Billy Kay is the second selection for SmackDown. And then finally, for the last pick of SmackDown for the free agency, they have elected to acquire the Golden Truth, which is Goldust and R-Truth. And now for the tag teams for WWE Japan. I'm going to go backwards in the order because I feel like it'll be a little bit more exciting that way. So the first pick for WWE Japan Tag Team Division is Otis, which was actually the 7th pick, along with Tucker Knight. Following that, the 6th pick for WWE Japan is going to be the Ascension, who actually are former tag team champions within Universe Mode as well as in real life. In reality, next we have the next for the 5th draft pick we have the All Night Express, which is Robert Gibson, and Ricky Morton. I mean, it's basically just Ricky Morton, but we know the deal. Up next for WWE Japan, they're going to pick up the Authors of Pain, Akam and Razor. The number 3 draft pick for the tag team division on WWE Japan is going to be Eric Rowan, who I will actually select this Bludgeon Brother one, as well as his tag team partner of Lars Sullivan. The second round draft pick now for WWE Japan is going to be the Mighty, that being the tag team of Shane Thorne and Nick Miller. And finally, the first round draft pick for WWE Japan, now to be revealed, is going to be the tag team of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. They are the outsiders, and that will conclude the tag team portion of the draft. And as a matter of fact, that will conclude the entirety of the draft. So with that being said, we now know who will be on which show, who will be contenders for which championships. However, I will just give you a brief look at some of the potential matchups now. So as a part of WWE Japan, we have the World Champion Okada, Tommaso Ciampa, the Grizzled Young Veterans Io Shirai, and Kishin Liger. This is the roster that you can see here. I will slowly scroll down so that you can see everyone who has been drafted to each show. And that concludes the roster for WWE Japan. Now I'll be showing the roster for NXT, as we see Sonata, the World Champion, Ilya Dragunov, the UK Champion, the Tag Team Champions being the Mustache Mountain, Bull Nakano still the NXT Women's Champion, and Drew Gulak is the NXT United States Champion. And here is the roster for NXT. And finally, I will show you the roster for SmackDown, as we see Drew McIntyre is still the World Champion. We have Will Ospreay as the Intercontinental Champion. Ember Moon as the Women's Champion. The Tag Team Champions being Future Shock as the subsidiary of the Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. Kurt Angle is the Openweight Champion, and this is the roster for SmackDown. So now after seeing that, you know who will be a part of Universe Mode in the coming year. Please let me know in the comments section who you were most excited to see on which show. What matches are you excited to see as a part of WWE Japan being the new brand? Or perhaps now that Hideo Itami and Pete Dunne have been drafted to SmackDown, there's many dream matchups that we can see. Or Daniel Bryan and Macho Man Randy Savage making their stay on NXT. Regardless of what it is, there is a lot of exciting stuff going on right now in Universe Mode. And I can't wait to see what this year of action brings. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining me. We will be continuing on with Universe Mode. I will only be uploading the pay-per-views, as doing each show is just too much of a hassle at this point. And later this month we will be having, not Backlash, but our first SmackDown pay-per-view. Perhaps it will be Backlash. However, towards the end of May, we will be having the first SmackDown pay-per-view that I will be uploading. And I want to thank everyone who has tuned into the video, who has wanted to watch it, anyone who's interested in this Universe Mode, anyone who's bought into these champions or my commentary, anything. Just thank you for being here and being a part of this. As for now, I'll catch you all in the next one.